So far in 2022, of all the concert tickets sold, who do you think is in the lead? Which band or artist do you think is in the lead for all of those things? Just concert tickets, amount of tickets.
Amount of tickets?
Yes.
I want to say Elton because it's theoretically his farewell tour, but I'm going to say Weezer just because I can.
Well, is Weezer still touring with Green Day?
They were last year, weren't they?
Yeah, I was there. It was an awesome show. It was a great show. God, that was amazing. But it's not Elton John.
No?
No. You want me to just break it to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's Motley Crue.
They're still touring?
Yeah, dude. I mean, doesn't that blow you away, though?
It does. It doesn't seem right. Like, it's like, wait, really? Like,
yeah,
they're beating out Elton.
I saw it. It was like Motley Crue tops concert ticket sales in 2022. I'm just like, what?
I imagined if I went, I'd have a great time at the show, but at the same time, I'd be like, that doesn't sound much like the album.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy. And welcome back to yet another presentation of Drunkenomics. This is the drinking podcast with an economics problem and with the power vested in the VIX for some reason whatsoever. I would like to welcome us all back as the less gracious host once again for 2022. Let's just say it, 2022. I'm the less gracious host. My name is Aaron Wong, and I'm joined alongside the ever so gracious
James Goldwater, not to be confused with James Joldwater, our analyst who really got.
Yeah, I mean that guy.
We had to get after him.
That dude was the reason why our episode last week came out so late. So apologies for that. We got it uploaded.
Between him and Warren Ong, Warren Ong just didn't upload it.
Yeah, who's that guy? When did we get that guy? Yeah, I don't know. Well, whatever. I mean, he's probably got to go.
I think we hired him when the VIX was under 18.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know how to survive at this point.
I agree. I don't think he knows how to handle this less graciousness. And to me, I'm still looking at the VIX going like, okay, how can people still afford to buy options? Like, the VIX is measured on implied volatility on the SPX, which is really just a fancier way of saying demand for options there. And people are still buying. People are still buying these insane premiums because they want to hedge against what?
Well, the downside risk, I'd imagine. We've talked about this before.
Well, that's the obvious answer, but
I mean, there's some people who are hedging against the upside risk too, but that's because they have a short
because it's shorted.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. So there you go. They got to de-risk both directions.
I'm not saying everyone has a short position. I'm saying there's got to be someone out there who just wasn't paying attention, and so they've accidentally hedged themselves against an upside risk. And to you, we say, hello, sir.
But it is true, though. I mean, like if you look at the average true range of the VIX, it's historically high. And I say historically, and I've really only looked at the data from like the last maybe 6 months. So it's like higher than usual compared to like years ago. So if you do need a hedge, I guess, buy some options. But what blew me away was the put call ratio on the SPX. And I only looked at it on Thursday, but the put call ratio on Thursday on the SPX was above 2. Can you believe that?
Kind of.
Yeah. But Thursday was just a brutal day of carnage too.
Yeah, because Thursday was, I was going to say like Friday.
Friday bounced back. Friday was a great day.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, it makes sense because Thursday was really ugly. And then today wasn't exactly kind either. And my thing is like, as the days tick down to middle of June, I am ever so confident in my S&P bet.
Yeah, I know. And my confidence, on the other hand, is just diminishing at a rapid pace. It's diminishing as fast as
for me, the other thing is and this just goes to like my just utter dislike of Elon Musk and his business decision making plans or his business decision making skills.
Yeah.
I thought right now he's saying, maybe he'll buy Tesla for a lower price than he announced.
Tesla or Twitter?
It's like, yes. Twitter.
Both.
Twitter with his Tesla. Yeah, no. I just love it because he's sitting here like, maybe I'll buy it at a lower price. I'm like, I'm not convinced you can do that.
Well, because what did he do? He withdrew his offer, which
he didn't withdraw it. It's paused.
Right. Sorry. He paused. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. So he paused his offer, and then there was talk of people saying like, oh, he's backing out of this deal once again because Elon Musk backs out of everything. And I'm like, no, I think he's just looking for a better price. Like, and I think that's the obvious thing that he's trying to do. He's just.
Well, I mean, he's also sitting here going like, wow. if I buy at that price, it's still going to cost me an awful lot. And then once, like if Tesla has not been performing well, and it's one of those things where you look at it, it's like, well, if it dropped the way, if it's been dropping the way it's been dropping, and let's just say it's based on the assumption that a lot of his stock is going to be tied up in the Twitter acquisition deal, then if you didn't like it at 54 billion, why would you like it? As Twitter declines in value, why would you like it now? Especially as Tesla declines in value, and you're like, we've said, I've kind of said, based on what I've been reading, it looks like $600 is kind of the dollar amount where once he hits there, a lot of his pledged shares start having to be sold for his lenders to cover what they've let him borrow.
Which I'll be honest with you, I think he's got to have some sort of swap agreement in place. Probably, I don't know though, but it's Elon Musk, and who doesn't want to do business with Elon Musk?
I mean, my thing is, if I can loan you money and then sell your shares, and then compel you to sell your shares and pay me back, I'm fine with that, because essentially I've loaned you money and now you have to sell your shares.
Right.
Well, now you have to pay the capital gains tax and I just get my loan repaid.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me any.
No, of course, and usually it doesn't. Like that's why, when brokerage firms let people go on margin, it's like, okay, yeah, well, I mean, go ahead and lever up. We know exactly this is the point. This is your margin requirement. If you get near that, then we're going to start taking action. Because
we're going to be whole. You may be destroyed, but we're going to be fine.
The brokerage firm is going to look at it like, okay, you just paid us our $50,000 back plus interest or whatever the margin amount was, right? So that's kind of the same deal. But I don't know. I think even if Tesla goes down to 600, which it's $124 away right now, and
it's 17% off. It's 17% off from the close.
Yeah, and on I think it was Thursday of last week. It got under 700, I think. So yeah, I think he's got like an insurance blanket statement or whatever it is, where someone else would swoop in and just kind of be his knight in shining armor if that were to happen. But I don't know. It's all speculation. It's Elon Musk. Like I have no idea what he's got going on behind closed doors. So
to be fair, I'm not sure he does either.
It's true. That is true.
That's my just like my watch as it ticks down. My just kind of it's like I said. Like,
I feel you.
We had a really interesting question in the in the Discord. Which, if you want to know how to get there, you should check us out on our social media.
Yeah, good idea.
That is in the metaverse at Drunkenomical on Twitter at Drunkenomical. So DRUNKENOMICAL.
Nice.
All right,
Drunkenomical on Elon's possible future company. It's also on Mark Zuckerberg's companies, Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
So then after that, you can track in. You find the invite to join us in the Discord. We had a really fun question, and I'm
Elon change how the investing world.
Yeah, it was Eric asking us like, will Elon change how the investing world views corporate takeovers? He played almost every wrong card in taking over Twitter, and it still worked. Well, he doesn't have it yet. One thing, Eric. So he doesn't have it yet. So yeah, it looks like it worked. Like now it's just all over, but the signing and the actual transfer. Will activist investors come to be respected and not despised? Well, what's her face at ARK?
Cathie Wood.
Yeah, Cathie Wood she's despised. It seems like there are a lot of people saying she's the kiss of death for firms, but she's an activist investor. People don't like her. Or a lot of white guys on Wall Street don't like her, I should say.
It's not they don't like her. They just don't think she's that good at picking companies. They don't have very much confidence in her.
When I say, I'm sorry, when I say like, I'm not making that, this is like, oh, I really like this person, I dislike. So it's like the quality of a chef's food. What you think about the chef is,
gotcha.
I like that chef, I don't like that chef. It's the food, not necessarily the person. For those of you who remember the Drunkenomics game, that's an analogy. Go ahead and drink unless you're driving. In this case, wait till you're at your destination. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, okay.
There you go, take a sip.
So is Elon Musk, how's this going to be viewed? My thing is, and this is my answer to the Discord, this is my answer here now, which is essentially, I think this is going to be an interesting case study no matter what. This is either going to be an anomaly, like somehow this worked. Or it's going to be one of those like, hey guys, you ever want to see someone who did everything wrong and it blew up in their face like we all knew it would?
Well, but this is
here you go.
But this thing, like so far, what has happened is he made the proposal, he made the offer to buy Twitter. Yep. It became a hostile takeover. Twitter took a poison pill, and since taking the poison pill, Twitter was like, all right, fine, we'll sell.
Well, they gave themselves the ability to do the poison pill, and then they went, who cares?
Yeah. So now post poison pill, it's like, all right, well, now the company's a little bit cheaper. And I think Elon's way of saying, well, now that they had taken the poison pill, I can get it for a little bit cheaper per share, most likely. Usually, like if you take a poison pill, it's not like the company market cap is lower. It's just there's more shares outstanding usually. But in this case, it turned out that the company is a lot cheaper. Was it market conditions? Was it the fact that Elon said there's a bunch of bots and that drove investors away from Twitter? I don't know, but so far,
no, I like that.
It's gotten Twitter's market cap to come down a little bit, so he can bargain there.
If he just walks away from it, he owes Twitter $1 billion. if he just walks away. If he breaks the deal at this point, he owes them $1 billion.
Yeah, which at that point, if he realizes that he's going to lose more than $1 billion from buying Twitter and then actually running it as a company, then why not just pay the $1 billion? So it's, to me, like that's
kind of the real thing is you shouldn't have gotten this far in the first place.
No, I agree, and I have no sympathy if he does have to pay the $1 billion if he backs away from the deal. I have no sympathy for him because you made the choice. That was your choice. Sorry, live with it. But at the same time, it's like like if it comes down to it, why not, that's your bail, if you will.
And speaking of credibility that may or may not exist.
Oh, yeah,
you've
exactly.
had a fun time with our boy Jay Powell, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I didn't watch the C-SPAN interview, but I saw some notes and I saw some quotes. And this one was featured on CNBC, which I figured, why not feature on Drunkenomics as well? But this was a quote from Jerome Powell from an interview that he did on C-SPAN last week in response to his decision from the week before. So if you think about it this way, he made on May 5th or 6th or 4th or whatever it was, he made the decision to increase. May 4th. Yeah. May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Yes, exactly. So that was when he made the decision to bump up interest rates by 50 basis points. And then he also said, okay, 75 basis points, that kind of increase is out of the question for the rest of the year. And then he comes back the week after. So this was last week on, I think the 11th or 12th. He comes back in an interview with C-SPAN and says, and I quote, "We just say we have a series of expectations about the economy of things coming better than we expect." I got to chuckle there for a second. Resume quote. "We're prepared to do less if they come in worse than we expect, and we're prepared to do more if not. ... We've seen this committee prepared to do more if the incoming data and evolving outlook is different." So that was Jay Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, at the C-SPAN interview last week. From the sounds of it, that sounds like 75 basis points necessarily isn't out of the question.
Yeah, to me, as my reading it and my kind of looking back at some of that interview, that particular chunk of the interview, it seems to be in the same way we were sitting here like, why is he sitting here telling people he's not willing to do that, period? I don't know why you'd say that. You just say, look, we'll do what we have to do. Like, you just tell the markets, look, we're going to react to what the market conditions are. We're not going to sit here and tell you, we're not going to paint ourselves into a corner. And I guess I feel like he painted himself into a corner at that.
Why tie your hands?
And then, exactly. He tied his hands. And then this was him going, well, look,
I'm not actually
we will
tying
act more
my hands.
aggressively if necessary. We will act less aggressively if that's what's called for.
And he was, so he was like, okay, I guess I'm not that kinky. I won't tie my hands. I
would say maybe he admitted that he wasn't such a good scout and he doesn't remember how to do the knots.
Too. And then he goes on to say, like, this is some point later in the interview. He goes, "It probably would have been better for us if we had raised interest rates a little sooner."
My guy, I'll tell you this. Aside from me being kept out of the Treasury when I wanted to go talk to Janet Yellen, and I was going to go over to the Federal Reserve building, but I didn't. But I knew he wasn't in D.C. on that day, so I was like, "What's the point?" I think Janet's in town. I'll go talk to her. She'll get on the horn with. I
appreciate your efforts so much for doing that.
It'll be good.
Making the trip out there,
and you can check those pictures out on the Instagram.
Yes, you can,
and other social medias. But dude, I was in D.C. in October. In October, I would have told you to raise rates.
October of 2020 or 2021.
2021.
I think both. I think
I was pretty loudly saying in October of 2020 to raise rates too, but I even came to you and you wouldn't.
I know. So when he said that, okay, we should have raised rates a little bit sooner, it probably would have been better for inflation and for like an efficient economy, employment numbers, and all that kind of stuff. Dude, my man, if you had been listening to Drunkenomics for the last 2 years, you would have picked up on the hint. And now we're sitting here in a situation where the Fed has they're saying the Fed has lost credibility. I personally, and it's just me, and I think a lot of people can relate, but I could be on an island as well. I don't know. But I just said the Fed can't lose any credibility if they never had any to begin with. So this talk of the street saying, okay, the Fed has lost credibility because this whole transitory stance that they took all of last year. It's kind of backfiring on them now.
Well, these are the same people that were really happy to have the Fed put since Alan Greenspan was the chairman of the Fed. Right. Through 3 different Fed chairs, they've been happy to have the Fed backstopping everything and basically giving them free money. It's very clear that was bad for the economy and that the party's over.
The engine's running hot. There's too much lubricant. What's going to happen? It's going to overheat. And this is we're overheating now. But this is, I would say, this overheating cycle of the economy. Phase, whatever, I think is a little bit worse. And the reason why I say that is because of stagflation, which Ben Bernanke and I think Lloyd Blankfein come out, the ex-Goldman CEO?
I think Lloyd did say something. I know Bernanke did. He came out and said they needed to do something a long time ago.
Yeah, well, either way, Bernanke and Lloyd are really good buds.
I imagine you would be after 2008, but
But yeah, they both said stagflation is on the horizon, or we're either that or we're in it now.
Well, the funny thing about a horizon is it goes in 360 degrees all around you.
Yeah, so if it's on the horizon,
you're always in the middle of the horizon, folks. God, yeah, no,
right in the middle of that sip of bourbon.
I mean,
by the way, I'm not like I love this bourbon, but I just don't like the way the bottle is shaped. Oak and Eden.
Oh yeah, it's kind of
such
annoying.
a weird. Like, how do you hold it like this? You know, how do you pour it? Like, it's such a weird shape.
And then you have to hold it like around the neck and like over and like down.
Yeah, and I don't like pouring. I don't
either because
bourbon from
my fingers then block the neck, so I don't know exactly when the whiskey's getting to the
exactly.
Neck to pour.
But I mean, I don't know. I got a little sidetracked there. So this bottle is called the Wheat Inspire.
Ooh, I love that. Really
yeah.
Sweet, that French oak.
Yeah, no, but it also reminds me of there's a certain commodity that sounds kind of like the word wheat.
Is it wheat?
It is wheat. Wow. How did you know?
I may have gotten a phone push or two in the last few days.
Yeah.
Today, I'm saying today.
A push notification from your less gracious
CNBC
host.
And a few,
yeah,
that was the text.
And from
CNBC. Push notifications, text,
and
everything.
From CNBC.
To be fair, you beat CNBC to the punch. So
I did?
Oh, yeah. So take that.
Take that, CNBC. So that's the thing. So like Guy Adami, who is one of the CNBC contributors, said like, okay, Jerome Powell, if you had watched CNBC for the last year and a half, you would have had some ideas from us because we had been saying you should have raised rates.
Yeah, you need to be raising rates.
Yeah, you would have gotten some ideas from us if you had watched CNBC. Granted, I don't blame Jerome Powell for not watching CNBC, but at the same time, if you had listened to Drunkenomics, man, like, you know, come on, dude, we had some ideas for you, dude. But whatever. They're all saying, like everybody on CNBC is saying, okay, everyone thinks the Fed has access to data that nobody else has. But it turns out like a lot of people have access to the data.
To that same data?
Yeah. So that was a weird transition, wasn't it? I don't know if that...
I was going to say, when push comes to shove, you know where you're not getting your wheat from this year?
Where am I not getting my wheat from this year, James?
Well, there's a few places.
Should we rank them?
Well, I mean, let's just go through a quick list of producers.
Why not?
So we've got...
Good a time as any.
So the top 10, or rather, I guess all that really matters for our purposes here today are the top 8 wheat producers in the world, which of course are China, India, Russia, United States, Canada, France, Pakistan, and Ukraine. Those are the top 8 wheat producers in the world.
Wow. That's not the way I thought that list was arranged, but that kind of makes the situation a little bit more dire, I would say.
It absolutely does. All right, so what's going on? So India has decided they're no longer exporting wheat.
Yeah, the push notification, yeah.
That was that big push, that big text.
Yeah.
Russia, well, if you're in the Western world, you can't actually buy wheat from Russia anymore for multiple reasons. And it has something to do with the fact that number 3, Russia has invaded number 8, Ukraine. So Ukraine isn't planting enough wheat. Then in good old number 4, the US of A, it's a little dry.
It's been a very dry winter.
And I'll say that's affecting Canada too.
Well, yeah, because I think Canada also had a really dry winter. I'm not certain on that, but I know for a fact that the U.S. had a very dry winter. It was like I think the U.S. got like either 1.2 or the Midwest got like a collective like 1.2 inches of snow or 1.2 feet. Either way, it wasn't very much. Low, like not much moisture in the ground. Not really ripe for planting wheat, or I don't know how to talk like farmers do. You get the idea.
That's the perfect time to sow wheat.
Yeah. Also, so actually, number 1 is the European Union.
Well,
if you take the whole EU put together, but independent countries, China, India, Russia, US,
so and
then so on and so forth.
So at this point, we've got, let's just say there's a little bit of political intrigue in number 1. Number 2 isn't exporting anymore. Number 3's invaded number 8. Number 4 and 5 are having some, or at least one of those is having
environmental issues,
moisture issues, and we think the other one has too. And then I'll just say it: 6 seems to have been unaffected at this point, and 7 has never been all that stable in the first place. So, and is a notorious enemy of number 2. So, it's a very interesting point now where global wheat supply is. I mean, it's probably not going to be all that affected, but it is going to become more expensive just because number 2 has decided they're not selling. You can't buy from number 3, and number 8 isn't planting.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, let's hold China off to the side for a second here, because like India. The big push notification was, and I don't know if I mentioned earlier, and I'm sorry to sound redundant. My memory isn't very good, especially after like 5 shots of bourbon. Excuse me. But India, they just announced like at midnight today. So like at the very, like the, first hour of the day today on Monday, May 16th, India, which produces like 107 million tons of wheat, decides, okay, we're no longer sending any of this out because they have their own food shortage issues, which a lot of countries are actually facing that as well. But India is like, okay, we can't export any of this stuff because we have our own mouths to feed.
Yeah, so they had some issues. They had a drought, it wasn't so much a drought. They had an extreme heat in March, and so that actually damaged their estimated harvest. I think they lowered their wheat production estimates by nearly 6% prior to this announcement.
6%. That's what, 6 million tons, 7 million tons.
Yeah, 6 million tons.
6 to 7 million tons.
Yeah, they brought their estimate down to, they think they're going to produce 105 million metric tons this year, which the crop year would end in June. They thought they were going to produce 111 million tons. Now they're saying 106 or 105. To me, some of the interesting things is I am reading now a thing that says that India is willing to export to countries requiring wheat for food security, but only when their governments request it, and there'll be some negotiation that way. So there's no free market trade.
Yeah, exactly. It's only
between government negotiation. There's no marketplace.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it comes with a premium, but also backtracking a little bit for a little context on wheat consumption, just in terms of production and consumption. I just Googled this, so don't think that I'm like insanely smart, but global consumption of wheat is about 2 million tons per day.
Yeah.
So it's about that much. Probably a little bit more.
Yeah. So let's think about it this way. That's a requirement that the consumption is 730 tons a year.
Yeah. So it's about, it comes out to about 790 million tons a year is how much wheat is consumed a year. So if you bring that down to a day on average, it's a little over 2 million tons of wheat per day across the world. And if you look at India, they have 1.4 or 5 billion, 1.5 billion. I think they got that many mouths to feed.
1.4, it's 1.38, so 1.4 billion.
So 1.4 billion mouths to feed.
China has 1.4 billion.
So obviously the market reaction to that was, okay, wheat futures shot through the roof. What else did you expect? I don't know if it froze for trading or anything like that, but I just saw it was paused at a price for a while. So my assumption is that I don't know if the CME freezes futures trading every now and then. I know the LME froze. What was that they froze? Nickel? I think they froze nickel a while ago.
Nickel a while ago, yeah.
So, wheat futures shot up like crazy today. It was shot up. I forget what percentage was it.
I thought it was.
Yeah, so it's up 6% on the day, and that's according to an article from Financial Times. It looks like it froze for trading, just based on the chart that I sent you, and based on like what I'm seeing on CNBC.com. It looks like it froze for trading. I don't know how else to describe that kind of movement on a chart.
Yeah, no, so, but that makes sense. Like it makes sense. It's a huge jump. 6% is a pretty big jump on a commodity that a lot of other commodities depend on. So, let's just ignore how that affects traders, because some traders having a great day, some traders having a terrible day.
Right. Well, let's look how this actually affects the broader market and the economy. What's wheat used for aside from food and bread and whatever else? I think the most important thing that we can agree on that wheat is probably used for is alcohol.
I will concede to that. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad I have you on my side because it makes there's wheated whiskey. I think wheat goes into
you have wheated bourbons as well. So
there's a ton of wheat in bourbon. Yeah, but but the U.S. grows a ton of wheat.
But if we really think about this, if we just look at this from a consumption standpoint, what we're going to see is that from a very basic view of it's like bread, chips.
Chips,
anything that uses wheat is going to become more expensive. Thus, the consumer will be hurt.
Yeah.
Anything that is a substitute good for wheat is going to become more expensive.
I was going to say, yeah.
Right? The alternatives are going to go up. So corn chips through the roof, which hurts the consumer. What is that? I guess in theory, you've got the producer, which could be either really happy or really sad. Depends on where they were sourcing their grain from, to be fair, I guess.
Right, exactly.
I'm sure there's a guy sitting in California who was, not California, that doesn't make sense. But there's a guy sitting somewhere in Southeast Asia who was sourcing his wheat from India. Now he's like, come on.
Yeah, so wheat is also used for like, I had no idea. I just looked this up too. Wheat is also in a bunch of like random household products. So like a lot of like lotion and stuff, shampoo.
But at the end, in the end, from my perspective, and I realize this is from a 10,000 foot view, is it doesn't actually matter to me what it goes into. What matters is that whatever it was that was using wheat is now more expensive. And it's not just more expensive because inflation, it's now more expensive because costs are going up.
Well, costs are going up, but it's also the ironic thing is so COVID had actually created this need for globalization because after COVID, and whether you want to blame COVID for this or not, it's kind of added globalization to so many sectors, but it's also taken away globalization from,
and it's made less stable, that globalization, which that's the funny thing is like everyone thinks like, oh, is it the globalization idea is that it stabilized things, because when you have, instead of having to worry about, okay, a drought in my country affecting my wheat prices, well, it will. Well, but at the same time, I'm also able to freely import or export wheat from India, Russia, China, or rather have the product that while I may be milling my own flour here in the U.S., if some flour might become a little more expensive, the lotion I was having, like this lotion or like all these other prepackaged products that are being manufactured in China are using Indian wheat. So it's not like the supply of wheat here in the U.S. is drastically affecting these other goods. But now, with certain whole economies essentially dropping in and out of the global market based on, if you're India, the decisions of your government on wheat. If you're Indonesia, the decision of your government on palm oil. If you're China, the decision of Xi Jinping on Shanghai, Beijing, whatever
the COVID
having a COVID flare up. So you have this uncertain thing where historically you would have, you often hear the expression, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And so you used to have like, okay, so one thing fails, but everything around it's also connected. So that one being gone isn't necessarily a disaster. You had a robust resource chain, at least, or a source point.
But it's not just like for wheat. Obviously the dire situation now is wheat. That's why we're talking about it, because this is the most recent, this is the newest news. But I guess this begs the question as to why they did this, right? And, you mentioned the heat waves that caused production to kind of contract a little bit in India because the environment just wasn't suitable for growing a ton of wheat. There was that, but on top of that, I think they also imported a ton of wheat from Russia or Ukraine, one of the top 8 countries.
Yeah, Ukraine is a huge exporter, as is Russia. I think so. Yeah, no, you've got India has what they saw a decrease in their domestic supply of wheat, and then they also looked at Ukraine and they said, "Boy, I don't think they're going to be harvesting." Yeah, they seem a little preoccupied. Yeah, and then
because if you have a farm, like, okay, well, if you want to keep your farm, you got to mortify
farm east of the Dnieper River. You probably aren't farming right now.
Yeah, you got your hands tied.
And if you have a farm west of the Dnieper River, you might still be farming, but your main port to export your wheat is Odessa. And Odessa's not exporting grain, is not exporting wheat right now. Odessa is, for lack of better terms, under a blockade.
Yeah. So if you are still producing wheat in Ukraine, it's pretty much just, okay, it's got to stay domestic. Yeah. So the big reason that India decided that, hey, we're not shipping out any more wheat is because food security.
They're worried about domestic food security, which is a valid concern.
Yeah. Especially when you have 1.4 million mouths to feed.
Billions.
It's a lot. Billion. Did I say million? Wow.
You did.
I blamed the whiskey.
Well, and then on top of that, the next thing is you have 1.4 billion mouths to feed. You're also dealing with inflation. You're also dealing with higher food costs. And I'm willing to bet that the palm oil export out of Indonesia is affecting India.
If nothing else, it's definitely not helping.
Yeah, no, it is. India is the largest consumer of palm oil, consuming 20% of the global supply. So I think it is safe to say at this point that the Indonesian decision not to export palm oil has affected the Indian decision not to export wheat. Yeah, and they have to try and keep wheat less expensive because palm oil is more expensive. Yeah. That kind of brings us to that funny point of like what happens when a country decides it's going to impose some. Well, yeah, when it says it's going to impose an export ban or something, or some sort of artificial.
But just citing food security, it basically is saying, okay, now we're kind of between. Okay, the free market is great. It's good if you're on both sides of wheat, right? On the wheat trade, if you're an exporter or if you're it's good on both sides because it keeps you honest. Competition is good for any business, really.
Free trade is great. Generally speaking, free trade is good for everyone.
Yeah, it's good for consumers and it's good for producers because it makes producers more efficient and it gives consumers the best possible price out there.
Best possible price, exactly. So historically the big tariff or the big ban on foreign goods coming in, if you look at British history, are the Corn Acts. Mm-hmm. So you had these Corn Acts which said that you couldn't import grain into the United Kingdom unless the price was over a certain price, and it was fantastic for the landowners who were growing the crops. Horrible for the people because the price was so high before they could bring in more grain. And so when the Corn Acts were finally repealed, suddenly people were able to afford more food,
but
the farmers weren't happy.
Yeah, of course, right? Because the farmers because right now it's exciting to talk to wheat farmers and say like, okay, dude, wheat is at an all-time high, or at least like a, in a certain period.
Getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there.
I don't see a reason for it not to hit at this point.
They can be, right? So if they're producing if they actually met production quotas, it's like, okay, yeah, they're extremely profitable right now. So it's exciting to talk to them about that. But at the same time, like that act that you're talking about, you're bracketing free trade. And that's what India is doing. You're bracketing free trade. You're saying, all right, let's keep wheat domestic. So even if there's cheaper wheat at other countries, it's like,
well, even if there's what's happening actually,
that's not really good.
It's going the other way. So what's happening is if you're a
I said it and I kind of walked it back as I heard myself say it.
So it's this. So let's start in Indonesia, just because we're starting to see the pushback there. And you'll start to see the pushback in India soon. So in Indonesia, what's happened is a lot of the smaller palm oil farmers are really angry at the government because they're seeing like extremely high palm oil prices everywhere outside of Indonesia. And falling palm oil prices within Indonesia.
So I guess that's what I was trying to say.
They're sitting here like, well, this sucks. Like I can't sell to that guy who will offer me more money,
right?
But I can only sell to these guys who will offer me less, maybe even less than my break even. So it's damaging, destroying livelihoods, possibly.
Yeah. So it's hurting producers.
So then what's happening to the wheat farmer in India? The wheat farmer in India is sitting here, and he's probably the best bet is that you can survive by banning exports of a certain good, so long as you are a net importer of that good anyway. Like you'd say, look, you just can't sell into the outside world. We have to keep it here for food security reasons. But if you're a net importer, if you were a net exporter before, you're gonna have a surplus building up.
So do you know if India is are they a net exporter?
India does import wheat.
But are they a net?
Oh yeah, they are a net exporter. So that's so just in that keep.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing that now. Gosh,
IOEC finally loaded up, which is nice.
Yeah. So we can be a little bit more specific with the data. Yeah, I'm seeing that too. They exported $244 million in wheat
in 2020 and imported $394,000.
Yeah. So that's a drastic. Yeah, they're like, not only are they a net exporter, but they are that by a long shot.
Yeah, it's not like it's close. This isn't just farmers selling to because there aren't enough flour mills in India, so he's selling his wheat overseas to mill it. Or maybe what that really means is that there's a lot of flour mills in India, and so they're selling a lot of flour instead of the actual grain itself. Well, it's cheaper to ship.
But this is protectionism at its finest. I mean, what Indonesia did last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever it was.
That 2 weeks ago, I think.
Whatever it was.
But here's the issue. So this might be great for Indian citizens, for the consumers of wheat products.
Because they export so much, and they're such a. But at the same time, it's also tough because it's like they're only making this decision as a country because
they see what has to be happening is they're seeing Russia, Ukraine, and their own drought. They're seeing drought in the U.S. and they're saying there's about to be a very high demand outside of India for wheat at very high prices. And when our farmers start selling out there instead of in here, because again, you're going to sell to whoever's offering you the most money. Probably they're seeing a domestic issue, and so instead they've decided farmers of India, you're going to have to sell here at whatever price the internal market commands. We are now a closed economy for wheat.
Yeah, they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because it's like, okay, you're hurting the wheat producers there because they want to sell to America because America can pay for the wheat.
Yeah, if America's offering you $20 and
wealthier countries can pay for
the guy down the street is offering you $4. You're sitting here going, I would like to sell for $20, please.
Exactly, yeah. And wealthier countries like the U.S., they can afford to do that.
Can afford that higher price.
Yeah, exactly. Which so if you're a producer, you're like, okay, I have more incentive to ship it off to the U.S.
You can afford to pay me.
Yeah, and then they turn back to their own country and they're like, okay, well, if you can't pay for it, make more money, which is kind of a harsh thing to say, but at the same time, that's the free market. And India's efforts to kind of contain the damage is really just protectionism 101. We have a food shortage here in India. It sucks, but to protect Indians, this is what we have to do. This is exactly what we have to do. So, am I for this decision? Like, it's tough to say. Like, I have a tough time supporting it because wheat prices shot up, and I don't like that. But at the same time, I understand completely where they're coming from because they have 1.4 billion mouths to feed, and they eat a lot of wheat
and again, they're seeing their food prices up because the largest consumer of palm oil, the largest supplier of palm oil has close the taps. So it's very much
and it's okay. They can't, that 349,000 or 394,000 in wheat that they import. Well, it's not going to be that much anymore this year.
No, they're going to need to turn that money around and use it to buy palm oil from Malaysia, which is picking up a lot of that slack.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not. Is this sustainable? No. Is this
no way?
Perhaps an overreaction? Yeah. Is it going to make the problem worse? Yes.
You think so?
It's right. Yeah. Well, so if Russia, which is the largest exporter of wheat in the world, exporting 19.5%.
Second, other than the second. China was
producer. China's largest producer.
Exporter. My bad.
Russia's the largest exporter.
I was looking at the wrong list. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So let's just say that 20% of the global exported wheat supply is by Russia. Well, there's a huge chunk of countries that aren't buying from them right now. Yep. Now that you've got India dropping out of the
wheat export.
I mean, in the end, India, only exported about, this is going to 2020 numbers. India only exported about 0.5% of the global supply.
Oh, wow. So it really wasn't that much.
If Russia's 19.5%, if India's 0.5%, and if Ukraine is nearly 9%, then 29% of the global supply of wheat has been disrupted based on 2020's numbers.
Yeah. I mean, so is right now a good time to meander over to what's going on with China?
Yeah, let's because China is a net importer of wheat. They import about 7% of the global supply of wheat.
Yeah.
So yeah, China's probably
one out of every 12 things of wheat that's produced, China imports almost. Like one
on the plus side, China's still friends with Russia, so their wheat supply is assured. Yeah, they're going to be fine.
This is the geopolitical tensions that we were talking about earlier at the beginning of the episode. That is really the reason why globalization is facing the conflicts that they're facing. I don't think COVID really, at the end of the day, had that much to do with it. It did, obviously, a little bit, but
COVID may have brought things into sharp relief, but that's probably it.
Yeah, but I think what happened was COVID brought on these global supply chain issues, and then it kind of got these countries to enact a little bit more of that protectionism outlook that they have been doing. A lot of them have been doing that. They've been decreasing their exports because it's like, okay, well, we need these raw materials in house, and for service economies like the U.S., that's not good. But to China, speaking of geopolitical tensions and not wanting to do business with China because of certain things that they've been doing because of COVID and them treating COVID like...
The way I've been reading is that they've been treating COVID like a war. Like a war. It's just not sustainable. To just try and hammer it down every time, lock it down, shut it off. It's like, no, you can't. That's not a viable strategy. It's not a sustainable strategy.
But because they've been doing that...
The economy runs on two things. You have guns and butter. I mean, in the most basic macroeconomic outlook, you can either be totally war mobilized, you can be totally civilian mobilized. Usually you want to be somewhere in between. But the thing is, China's entire economy is based on being the butter producer to the world, the civilian economy producer to the world. And so if they keep turning that off because they have to shut down, right? Oh, we can't have the factories open because that's where people will see each other. They'll get sick. We have to quarantine these 17 blocks of a city. People live there
over and over and over again.
6.2 million.
Yeah, it's like, so these guys can't leave and nobody can go in.
Oh, is there food there? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. So, so in China, because President Xi has been treating COVID like a war, well, Earth to Xi, quoting Zoolander.
So you Googleizer.
You Googleizer.
If you're not careful, you're going to end up getting you Googleized.
You're going to get you Googleized, President Xi. So apparently the political pressures around him in China have been pressuring him to step down. I didn't know that much about this. I was like, I saw the headline that said,
so
the headline was like, rumor has it that Xi might step down.
You sent me that text, and I think, what did I ask you? Yeah. I said he might step down or he might be stepped down.
Yeah, exactly. Is he getting you Googleized?
Is he going to resign or is he going to be retired? It's one of those, it's the big question when you run into autocracies like this, where, you sit here and you think, why is India, not to go back a little bit, but why is India trying to keep food cheap? Because governments tend to get overthrown when the people are unhappy about something.
Right? Exactly.
The French kings were over, the French Revolution occurred because
the American Revolution.
People were unhappy. The U.S. Revolution.
The U.S. started.
People were unhappy with the state of government. So one of the big things in China is that as long as the Chinese Communist Party is stable, and doesn't feel like it's being threatened by conditions, it's more than happy to continue with any amount of human suffering that it might think is in its interest to
which is unfortunate,
allowing to occur. To be fair, what I will say is that's true of any government. They just take it to an extreme that
China does.
Yeah, that really isn't okay.
I mean, it's kind of like the Fed saying, okay, transitory, right? It's kind of like that, but the China level is way more extreme. That's exactly another level of extreme.
But eventually the Fed has to say, all right, you're right, it's not transitory. We probably should have done something sooner. There were people sitting in the Fed meetings going, it's not transitory. We have to raise rates. It's not transitory. We have to do this. Yeah. This is going to be permanent. It's going to be permanent. And in China, that individual has been Li Keqiang.
Man, is that it? I literally just watched a video on how to pronounce his name, and I'm Chinese, and I still don't know how to say his name.
Yeah,
Li Keqiang.
So he's Li Keqiang. So Li has been
which like in Chinese, whenever you say names in Chinese, it's always the last name first, and then
it's the family name, which is Li, and then Keqiang, which is his given name.
My name in Chinese is Wong. And then it's the rest of my name.
So Li is he is an economist by profession. He is
sure he is.
The head of government actually right now. Yeah, so he is the 7th premier of the People's Republic of China, and he has been so since 2013, early 2013.
So almost 10 years.
And he was quite popular. So like before him,
really
in the office,
Wen Jiabao.
Before him was Wen Jiabao.
Jiabao. I don't know anything about this guy.
My understanding is he's been very much in the shadows, right? So in the U.S. we have a head of state who is also the head of government. So the president of the United States is the head of state and the head of government. And the easiest way to describe it is generally when the president is doing head of state things, it's very popular. When they're cutting ribbons, giving medals, like that kind of thing. When they're being head of government, it's usually very unpopular. Drafting, helping to sign legislation, pushing a political agenda. Yep. Most other countries in the world split those duties. You have a head of government. So the UK, the easiest version is there's the prime minister who's the head of government, and there's the monarch, the queen, who's the head of
queen. Yeah.
Who's
so there's Bojo and the queen. Yeah.
Right. And there's a reason everyone hates. Well, there's a few reasons everyone hates Bojo, and frankly, I'll be surprised if he survives the year as prime minister. Really.
I hear you. I mean, he's done some things well, but it's just
I'd be willing to say he's done some things.
Okay, so he's done some things.
Frankly, I'm surprised he's been in power. He's made it this long. Moving on.
I mean, he's a very controversial. Li Keqiang. Li Keqiang versus President Xi. So Li Keqiang is he the head? So he's the head of government.
He's the head of government, and he's been pushing back. So based on everything I've read, the articles I've been reading is that he's been pushing back on a lot of Xi Jinping's.
Wow,
he's really been pushing back on the leadership. He's been saying, no, the economy won't allow you to do this. We have to do things to stabilize the economy. He's been the one who's been pushing back and saying, hey, what you're doing, you're
let's not keep shutting down everything. Or
you can't. We have to take a different approach. We have to take a more sustainable approach.
Wow, this guy's got
here's the funny thing. So on March 11th, they said he was going to retire at the end of the year as his premiership ended. And I guess on
he's still
April,
the man.
he said nope. So no.
So like a month ago, he said nope. And then
he said no. Actually, never mind. He may not be.
Yeah, I mean, if you type his name in, so LIKEQIANG. If you type his name in on Google search, it's like every article is about how he's stepping out of the shadows of Xi Jinping.
Yeah, and then he's setting himself up, or he looks like he may be the successor.
Ooh,
but it's I mean, think about a lot of Xi Jinping's plans, where he comes out and says like, "Oh, it's fine to take the profits from some of our companies." From our most profitable companies, at the same time as we tell them that the basis of their revenue is going to be cut by law in order to fund other businesses that aren't successful. And it's like, hang on. And he goes, and to tell, I don't know, his property developers who already have very serious problems, that not they're going to be forced to restructure and become sustainable, but that actually you can't borrow money anymore. Figure it out, right? So you have to imagine that
figure out your own financing without any sort of incoming, debt financing, right?
So you have to imagine that Li Keqiang is kind of sitting like here is in another room hearing this, going, "Oh my God, no, why?"
Well, I mean, and there was a big headline that I saw the other day that was like, okay, so a lot of Chinese property developers have defaulted on all U.S. debts, U.S. dollar debts.
They can't afford. They can't afford to pay it.
Yeah, so like if you're looking at President Xi Jinping from multiple perspectives, it's like, okay, China doesn't necessarily like him that much anymore because he's been terrible for their economy with the crackdowns on their internet companies and all that kind of stuff. Like that hasn't been good for the economy, and not to mention all these COVID shutdowns. all the geopolitical tensions he's created, Chinese-Taiwan relations, all that kind of stuff. Like, so he has not been popular within China, and he's not popular, obviously, around the rest of the world.
Okay, actually, no.
So,
now, I'm reading a little bit more about Li. What it's saying is he announced he'll be retiring next March.
Oh, really? Well, I'm not saying leave. I'm saying President Xi has not been popular.
Oh, yeah, no, he's extremely unpopular.
And
there's a lot of political infighting in China right now.
And I didn't know that. I to be dead honest with you, I thought that he was really popular in China.
Here's the thing.
I had no idea.
You've seen The Death of Stalin, or have you seen The Death of Stalin?
I have not, actually.
It's Armando Iannucci.
It's a pretty new movie, isn't it?
It's 2017, so it's about 5 years old now, but it's based on a French graphic novel, and it's about the social political struggles immediately prior to and in the immediate buildup and in the immediate aftermath of Stalin's death.
Oh,
and so
gotcha.
it's that power vacuum, but it's also just this rat race of ambitious ministers and autocrats trying to consolidate power. And you can even see it before
Jason
Stalin's
Isaac
dead.
is in this movie. Oh man, I love Jason Isaac.
It's fantastic. It's on Netflix. You must watch it.
On
it is
Netflix?
It is one of the funniest films I have seen in a long time, and the worst.
Oh, and Jeff Tambor's in it, and Steve Buscemi. Oh my god,
dude,
yeah, that's
the cast
gonna be great.
The cast is amazing.
Yeah.
It is all true. Everything that happens is true. The timeline may be truncated so that it looks like it takes place in a few days versus a few years, but every single thing that occurs in the movie actually happened.
So what about this movie?
No, it's just that the idea that there's this power struggle, this constant infighting, this unpopular leader who everyone thinks is popular, but he's very unpopular. It's just he's seen as untouchable. He's very, very powerful. And so everyone's like, oh, I don't want to mess with him because he'll have me killed. Even though if everyone decided they wanted him gone, he'd be gone tomorrow. Yeah,
so it's kind of like President Xi. That's kind of like what he's going through in China.
Yeah, I would say that. He's in a very... At this point, he's very similar to Mao, because Mao was the first of the major leaders. Stalin was the first of the major leaders. And then now Xi Jinping has been elevated to the status where his view of political thought has been added as if it is written by an equal to Mao within the leadership of the party. So it's one of those things where you're like, Stalin had this huge cult of personality. Mao had a huge cult of personality. Xi's been trying to do a cult of personality, but he's dealing with the fact that apparently people make fun of him because they say he looks like Winnie the Pooh, so he's banned Winnie the Pooh from China. Like you know what I mean? It's like
not inaccurate. The banning part is totally accurate, but him looking like Winnie the Pooh is not inaccurate.
Yeah,
So China's going through all these issues, which is not good for the global supply chain in general, let alone just wheat exports. This is really just like a long way of us just saying we might be paying a lot more for food in the near future.
If not the U.S., because will the U.S. be paying more for food? Yes, we've already noticed we're paying more.
It's already happened. Yeah,
it's already happening. The U.S. can, as a whole, can afford to absorb that increase in price.
It's not going to be comfortable, but we can.
It may not be comfortable, but there's a social safety net, and in many cases, you're not going to be at risk of starvation tomorrow if you weren't at risk of starvation today.
Right.
In the U.S.,
it's going to be like a pebble in your shoe. It's just like you can't.
Yeah, it's going to be annoying. It's going to be irritating. Whereas there are other countries that do have very, very severe food security issues that this will be devastating to. Like this problem is not easing off anywhere. But
there are countries that can't afford it. Like they can't afford to do what the U.S. does is whenever there's an issue.
That a dollar increase in the bushel price of wheat is devastating too.
Well, and the U.S. as a government can afford to throw money at it. It's just, okay, we have an issue here. Yeah. Okay, let's throw money at it because that's what the U.S. does.
How do we make it possible to?
Yeah. But if you look at Bangladesh. Can they throw money at this issue? No way. The government will go bankrupt there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a double-edged sword of protectionism. Whereas, the one side you might be protecting yourself.
You got to look out for your own.
But at the same time, you're hurting. You as you do that, as you protect your people, you may be harming your farmers. Right? As you protect your citizenry, you may be harming your farmers, who are a small subset of that. You may push them out of wheat production. You may push them into producing something else. If you protect only your farmers, you might. You're going to hurt the majority of your citizens because prices are going to become expensive.
Exactly. So that's the other side of protectionism, which was you're talking about that tariff in England, kind of the same deal.
The old corn laws.
It's kind of and I hate to. This is a terrible analogy, and this might be the last analogy I make with this bottle of bourbon that I have. But It's like a zombie apocalypse, right? You go into a bunker with your family, you protect your own. You got to do what you got to do. It's going to suck for a while. You guys are going to eat canned foods, which is going to be terrible. It's just going to suck. And then you come out and, hopefully it's the end of it. And if you make it through and the rest of the world recovers, then you go back to life as you knew it before. Hopefully, probably not. Obviously, a zombie apocalypse just occurred. So it's not going to be back to the way it was before. But at the same time,
there's a few changes.
Some sense of normalcy will resume into place, right? Obviously, a zombie apocalypse has never happened. So I'm not speaking from experience. But it's kind of like that, right? There's a period of time in which you just got to go into a bunker. Hopefully you have some whiskey in there, but you go into a bunker.
Right now, I don't know what's more expensive, weeded or unweeded, because corn prices are up too.
It's all the same. But you go in there, and you protect your own. And speaking of protecting your own,
I was going to say, for me, it's critical that if you're going to go into that bunker, that you be comfortable. I think the most comfortable way to be is in some sweet Drunkenomics merchandise.
I was going to say, if you're going to protect your own, you got to stay warm. The best way to stay warm that I know about is wearing a nice black or dark black Drunkenomics hoodie. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. They're soft. They're comfortable.
Am I wrong?
I don't believe you are. You know what? And, it won't show the sweat. It won't show necessarily as much of the dirt. No, let's put it that way. You're going to be okay.
You can't avoid that, but
But would you really want to avoid dog hair? It's the zombie apocalypse. You're going to need a good cuddle. Speaking of which, you could also get some really sweet dog bandanas so you and your dog can match, so that everyone knows.
Yes,
look,
you can.
That's the guys from the Drunkenomics. That's the Drunkenomical guys up the hill. All of them made it because they were thinking ahead. They were being Drunkenomical.
Yep.
And so they did great. We should probably put them in charge because, one, they have a pretty cool uniform, and two, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah,
but if you want to know how to suit up,
all that can be found at Drunkenomics, drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com. That's drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com. From there, you can also go, not from that website, but a different website that you can go to.
Moving on after that.
If you want to support the cause, is Patreon. P-A-T-R-E. Oh, wow, this is terrible.
Patreon.com/Drunkenomics, DRUNKE. DRUNKENOMICS.
How do we both have jobs still?
I'm not sure.
That's where you can help us keep the ice cubes cold, keep the liquor cabinet stocked, lights on.
The bunker ready to go for that zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, and in that bunker, also, you keep the mics hot. Yeah. And then from there, check us out on LinkedIn. Got a post coming this week.
We do.
Probably will be out. Yeah, probably will be out before the episode is released. So LinkedIn.com/Drunkenomics, I think, is the site. If not, if you just type in Drunkenomics on LinkedIn search, you can find us. Follow us. If you want to add James and I on LinkedIn, feel free, man. I don't care. Dude, add us, man. I'll add you back.
Yeah, we'll be on. We can be in a network together. It's cool.
If you're not an Elon Musk bot, I'll add you, man. Cool.
I don't know if you are an Elon Musk bot. I'll probably still I'll talk to you.
I'll still just I'm just gonna send you an invite to like Drunkenomics or to follow Drunkenomics. But yeah, dude. From there, hope you all have really enjoyed a drink with us. I certainly enjoyed this drink.
Absolutely,
I love bourbon. So how do you not enjoy that? But hope you had a nice little bourbon as well, or whatever you like to drink, whether it's gin, beer, whatever it is. Hope you filled and killed with us. Please continue to play chess, not checkers. Don't brag, just say. I think it only gets worse. That's what they keep telling me.
Just stay on the lookout for opportunities to be Drunkenomical and
dude, stay Drunkenomical. What? Absolutely. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.